So while I'm live, you could go up, if you can go up to some people and be like, we were just covering the rally at the Union Hall. Would love to speak with some of you. If any of you want to come on. Oh, we are? Maybe we should pivot it, the camera, since it's right now just showing.
Oh, yeah, it's just temporary.
Okay.
How you doing?
Good. Hello, hello, hello. Can anybody hear me? 1 2 1 2 1 2. We're going to be moving the camera in a minute, so don't worry. You won't be watching a live stream of the Teamsters bus. Hey, sir.
Yeah.
Would you want to talk? I was just covering the rally over there at the Union Hall. Okay. Can I just show your sign then? Sure. Right here. So here we have a fine gentleman. Stop the war on workers. I couldn't have said it better myself. We're just coming over from the UAW Union Hall, where there had to be about 150, 200 people there for a rally in solidarity with the UAW and the John Deere workers striking. So if you look over here, you got workers striking over there, cars going berserk as they drive by, honking. We saw this when we were down in Ottumwa at the picket line, as we were in Davenport, East Moline, Illinois, we were yesterday, and now here. You can't, I mean, it's very rare you see a car drive by without honking. They're honking in solidarity. So the communities are all in on this. Waterloo, actually, I believe, is the biggest area in Iowa as far as John Deere workers. But, it kind of varies. We just wanted to show you kind of how the picket works. Not all workers want to talk. It kind of varies location to location where you go. So in Ottumwa, where we went the first day, they wanted to talk. East Moline yesterday could only get 1 or 2 people to talk. At the rally we were just at, we got a couple interviews, which was cool. By the way, this is a Teamsters bus, so the Teamsters Union, where the head of the Teamsters spoke at the rally we were just covering. They're coming in to support the UAW workers. You do see over here a burn barrel to keep warm. Workers honking. You got the John Deere striking dog over there, which is cool. Let's go over a little closer so we could show over here. So obviously you have workers with their signs. If you if you come over here, you got their tent, wood to keep warm, the burn barrel over here. If anybody wants to talk, we're live. We were just at the rally, so we come in peace. If you want to talk. Yeah. So basically, you got Ottumwa. Let's not get killed. You got, huh? Oh. My phone?
I hear the audio.
My phone? Oh, my phone's on. That's funny. So we started out in Ottumwa, which, a lot of people out there, I think there were like 25, 30 out the picket line. It was cold in Ottumwa. Then we went up to Davenport, where there was a rally against the injunction. So if you don't know, John Deere filed for an injunction in Davenport, Iowa. John Deere claiming that apparently having a burn barrel, which is to keep you warm, somehow infringes on their day-to-day work. Obviously, that's bullshit. They're trying to freeze the workers out, but they're still out protesting and striking in Davenport, even though they're not allowed to have a burn barrel or chairs. So a judge, for some reason, thought chairs were threatening. A burn barrel was threatening. Then we went to East Moline, Illinois, which there's John Deere in East Moline, mispronouncing it, somebody told me yesterday. Milan, not Milan, Italy, but Milan, I think it is. And then we came to Waterloo because there was a big rally this morning. We might go back to Ottumwa. It's supposed to pour out in Iowa tomorrow, but from what I hear, they will still be out. But the energy at these picket lines is really contagious in a good way. You know, a lot of the workers we met actually are on probation, particularly in East Moline. They've only been there for 7 months or a year. A lot of the workers we met are retired, but they're still out here in support because it's not just about the current workers. The current workers are really fighting for the next generation of workers. And frankly, it's generational for a lot of these workers. I spoke with workers on different picket lines where their nephew is just starting at John Deere, or their kid works at John Deere, or their grandkids might work at John Deere. So it's not just about their current workers' pay or benefits or pension. It's about not sacrificing the next generation of John Deere workers. But there's a real camaraderie, and there's a real, there's like an energy and a spirit in the air of workers kind of realizing they've been screwed and they've been continued to being screwed, and they want to fight back. You want to come on? All right. I really want the dog more. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. She's beautiful.
What's your dog's name?
My dog's name is Gemma.
Gemma? Beautiful. Hi, Gemma.
It's like, but there's squirrels over there, so, you know. Oh, there's a dog over there. She's going to go apeshit crazy, so.
I wanted to ask, because I go picket line to picket line, and there's a real spirit where workers are finally realizing we don't have to take this anymore. Can you kind of talk about this energy you've been seeing?
Well, I'm here as community support, Waterloo and Cedar Falls. Let me get back to you.
Yeah. We were interrupted by the other dog, so she said she'll come back. Gotta love it, live in the community. By the way, I will tell you, my wonderful dog Millie, if she's watching, she's for some reason she's scared her of little dogs, but not big dogs. You were saying you're showing community support.
Yes, community support, because our unions are so important, and you're talking about generational. My grandmother worked at a bakery in Ottumwa back in the day. She was a widow raising 2 kids. It was a unionized bakery. She couldn't afford the union dues. So the union let her take notes during their meeting and made her secretary so she could be in the union. So she was working. The union looked out for her. There was a new procedure for wrapping bread that the bakery was making, so they made sure she got that job. It paid a little more. She was a widow raising 2 kids. So when men came back from the war, they were saying the women in the workforce were taking the men's jobs. And so the union said, no, this was a new job, came up during the war. She's not taking a job from anybody. It's her job as long as she can do it. Well, then she had a hysterectomy. And she went back to work. But part of her job was to carry the this sheet with the bread on it from point A to point B. And, you know, her doctor didn't want her to do it. She had to work. I mean, this is a woman who, when the Ottumwa had their flood, walked across a flooded bridge to get home to her kids. So the union helped her keep her job. Some union guy took that bread for her until she could carry it herself. This is generational. Unions are important. And Waterloo supports the union.
What's your name?
My name is Kathy Mahoney,
Thanks, Kathy.
and my grandmother's name is Louise Engel.
Louise, God bless her. That was amazing. So that's the kind of, let's keep it real. Unions have been just decimated over the last 40 years. Kind of started in the 70s, then Reagan comes in and just fucking busts the whole thing. The Democrats basically continued that, only sounding nicer towards unions, but by policy, Democrats have been just as bad, bashing unions. It was Bill Clinton who signed NAFTA, which sold a lot of their jobs to Mexico, China, and elsewhere. Obama wasn't great on unions. The national Democrats in Congress, they've given a lot of lip service to unions. I said it all along when Biden was running and pushing this bullshit that, Wall Street didn't build the middle class, labor built the middle class, and I'm Union Man Joe. This is a man who was taking money from union-busting companies like Comcast. This is a man that voted, pushed for NAFTA and every other thing that bashed unions. This is not a union guy. Look at where he takes his money, and he's basically given lip service. He's given lip service to unions. Frankly, he's given neutral statements. If they want to strike, they should be able to. That's not support. If Bernie Sanders was president, you better believe he'd be on the picket lines with these workers. But the great thing is, even though corporations have busted these unions, the media has been complicit in allowing corporations to exploit workers, to frankly steal from workers, because what we've been talking about here, it's theft. What you're seeing is theft, generational theft. These companies are making bank. This company, John Deere, is projected this year alone $6 billion to make $6 billion. The CEO, John May, during the pandemic, his salary went up 160% increase. Yet John Deere offered these workers here and in Ottumwa and in Davenport and in East Moline and Moline and Kansas and all the various places. They basically, if you're taking inflation into consideration, basically offered them a couple bucks extra over 4 or 5 years, a couple dollars, which if you look at it in terms of inflation over time is essentially a cut. It's a cut. I spoke with some workers who said compared to what we were making about 10 years ago, if you factor in inflation, it's less money than they were making. And they're also trying to essentially get rid of pensions for new workers. So this is what's going on in, as I call it, the United Corporations of America. Let's say it again. United Corporations of America. The media has kind of, sort of covered this, and we could switch so you see them behind us. The media has kind of, sort of covered this. You do see, you've seen headlines in the New York Times, the Washington Post, USA Today, but as far as I can tell, they are kind of, sort of, very friendly to the John Deere perspective. Let's put it that way, particularly the local media, which is not surprising. I actually just spoke with somebody who said, I gave an interview and then it goes up on local media and it's selectively edited to make it a little bit more favorable to John Deere. The media has pushed this line that the average worker makes $60,000 here. I've spoken with the workers. They're not making $60,000 on average. So we're happy to be out here to actually give a voice to the workers, to show what's really going on. And it's not just John Deere. I mean, there is literally workers striking and fighting back all over this country. And you have not seen that in this country in many, many years. I mean, you have to go back to the 2000s for the last time of this level of strikes. And it's not just the strikes. You have workers quitting in record numbers right now, quitting their jobs. You have workers at major companies. You're talking Amazon, Starbucks, that are trying to form a union. After this trip, we want to go to Buffalo, and one of the things we want to cover is Starbucks workers are trying to unionize. Just for trying to unionize, Starbucks has sent in Howard Schultz, the chairman of Starbucks, as well as other senior executives to hold listening sessions, i.e. propaganda sessions, to tell workers to eat shit. So that's why it's important to cover this. Anybody want to come on?
Yeah.
Hey.
My name's Charlie Wishman. I'm president of State AFL-CIO.
Hey, nice to meet you. Oh, I heard you speak at the rally. You were really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so we've been in Ottumwa, and we went up to Davenport, East Moline, and now here. And it's really just contagious, the energy that we're seeing. Can you kind of talk about, there's kind of like a camaraderie we haven't seen in a while. Just workers in general, and this kind of desire to fight back.
Right. So first of all, this fight that's going on here with the UAW and Deere is so much bigger than just this contract, And, I just heard you talking and you touched a little bit on it, but it's like, it's what's going on here. It's going on at Kellogg's. It's, the stagehands fighting back. It's the nurses fighting back. And that's just the stuff you hear about the coal miners in Alabama. These are huge, huge issues, but a consistent theme, whatever picket line I've been to in this state, has been, look, these brothers and sisters here came up under that second tier wage system, and they think it's bullshit, and they are, pardon my language, but they think it's fucking bullshit. They're not going to pull the ladder up behind them like what's happened before, and there's a new trade union movement out there that's coming up and coming of age, and it's folks in our 30s, 40s, 50s, right? And these folks have busted their ass for Deere for 20 years, at least 20 years, and they, this idea that they're making all kinds of crazy high wages just isn't true, and all they're trying to do is just get a sniff of the American dream, right? And not only that, they're not dumb. They are incredibly intelligent, skilled workers. And I even hate this unskilled, skilled bullshit that people start talking about, because, I don't know. I couldn't probably walk into a McDonald's and run the lunch shift. You're skilled in what you do. That is an artificially made up construct, I think, that is by the ruling class that is used to keep wages down. But like I mentioned this morning, there is a worker uprising that's going on, and you don't even hear about all the stuff that's going on. And I think we're on the front end of something huge, and it is up to this new labor movement to make sure that it keeps going and that it spreads, and that we don't allow this neoliberal trade union bullshit to come back.
What's interesting to me, we live in a really consumer society. People want their yoga mats from Amazon in 2 hours or whatever, but there's never really been a lot of thought into like what goes into getting you that. What goes in? We were just driving around Iowa. It's John Deere tractors everywhere. Just talking to people, you're talking about people's bodies breaking down, 10, 11-hour shifts, three Saturdays out of the month, people missing games, marriages suffering. It's back-breaking, mind-breaking work, what these workers are doing. So when we hear all this talk about, the greatest country on earth, the greatest economy, the American dream, well, if you're lucky enough to dream, these people might have trouble getting out of bed from working. Can you kind of talk about, like, this is the profit that they're making is off of basically exploitation and bodies breaking down?
It's not only that. So you hit the nail on the head, is that this is hard back-breaking skilled labor, right? And it's funny, it's not funny, but one of the first few days of the strikes, this strike here, and it happened here in Waterloo, some salaried folks tried to start running the stuff, and they drove a tractor into a fucking electrical box, right? So clearly it's almost like these folks know what they're doing, and their labor's worth it.
And by the way, John Deere is kind of putting their lives at risk. These salaried workers they don't have training or any experience operating machinery, but John Deere has them in there trying to, I guess, keep it moving.
But not only that, there's so in 2017, unfortunately, we were one of these states that had a huge Trump wave that happened. Iowa had, despite what a lot of people may think about our state, we have traditionally gone blue or red. We're kind of a purple state. We went for Obama twice. We are not the deep red state that you think of, but partially because of neglect by the Democratic Party in their messaging about this. I got an interesting story about that too.
messaging, try support. I was just talking about, not to get too political, but we hear all this Biden, Wall Street didn't build the working class, labor did. Well, he's only given neutral comments. They're not pushing the PRO Act as far as I could tell. And Democrats, Republicans too, but Democrats have, NAFTA, all this stuff. So it's not like, Democrats could say what they want in support of unions, but actions speak louder than words.
Well, not only so, in 2017, when we had our new legislature come in, not only did they rip up collective bargaining for public employees in this state to where the only thing you can bargain for is the base wage, but there was a horrible, horrible work comp bill that came through. And who was behind it? Big funders of the Republican Party, of course, but it was Tyson, right? And one of the big things was like repetitive shoulder injuries. It basically cut by 3/4 the amount that somebody could get for a work comp injury to their shoulder. So who's the biggest? Who are the biggest people who are pushing that? It was Tyson, John Deere, and all these other, and the trucking industry, right, too, then doing that to our brothers and sisters in the Teamsters. This is, so it's not just this fight that's going on out here. There is a larger political fight that's going on. But when you want to talk about messaging and trade and these types of things, and this is, actually, I don't mean this in any disrespect to the Secretary of Agriculture, but I remember it was actually the morning of 1/6, ironically enough, and so I was talking to Secretary Vilsack on the phone.
Monsanto Tom.
Well, so I was talking to him, and I said to him, we were just having a discussion, and I said, so can you tell me what the Democratic message on trade is? Because I can't. I know what I'd like it to be, but can you tell me what it is? And he thought about it and said, no, I can't. Right? And I'm not blaming him personally for that. This is a system-wide problem. And so if the Democratic Party can't get their shit together to even come up with what a message on trade is, we're going to continue to lose in places like Ottumwa and well, we're still doing all right here, but in these mid-sized Midwestern towns that are kept alive by manufacturing, and again, Secretary Vilsack is, it's not his job alone to come up with, what messaging on trade is. I didn't hear a damn good message out of any Democratic candidate, and we had 600 of them running in 2020. Outside of maybe Senator Sanders, Senator Warren, there's some people who did have some good ideas on it, but overall,
you could be diplomatic. I'll be a little less diplomatic. If the corporations that basically have bought off the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, are writing the trade deals, let's just call it what it is. NAFTA, they tried with TPP. These are multinational corporations heavily influencing our trade policy. It's going to be hard to have a good message if you have that conflict.
Well, and so the reason why Secretary Vilsack and I were having that conversation that morning is because, we were, he called and basically said, we need to, the Iowa Democratic Party has got some real problems as far as winning, and there needs to be some real structural changes, and I completely agreed with that. But I said, look, here's the problem is, one of the worst things about this job is when you have to, first of all, being able to get up and work with and represent working people is I couldn't think of anything better in the world to do. But one of the worst things about this is when you have to go somewhere where there's a plant closing and you get invited to speak to people, and it's like, what do you say? I'm sorry your job is going to Mexico. This sucks. We're behind you, whatever you need. And I remember it was in 2015, and I was down in Lee County in this town called Keokuk, and there was a plant called Steel Castings that was leaving, and their jobs were going to Mexico. And at the same time, and I was trying to explain to Secretary Vilsack why it is hard and why things are hard is because at the same time that was there, and the Republican primary was going on, and Trump, while he's a fraud and a phony, he was saying the right things.
Oh, I saw it in 2016. They say Russia. I say he had them at NAFTA, because at these rallies he was just going off on NAFTA, and the people, understandably so, in Michigan and other kind of deindustrialized places that have been hit by offshoring, he had them at NAFTA, from what I kept hearing.
Well, and so at the same time he had them at NAFTA, I was trying to explain to Secretary Vilsack, the problem is, Tom, that you're pushing the TPP. So how am I supposed to talk to these members about vote Democratic? It makes a difference. We lost that. We lost the ability to do that. I think we can get it back. I do. I'm a Democrat, and I have no problem being proud to say that. But I'm a different kind of Democrat, I think, than some other folks out there. Yeah. And we need to get a real labor Democratic Party back.
Well, I think the beautiful thing about what's going on in terms of these strikes, not just the strikes, but union drives, a lot of workers quitting, is it's kind of outside the electoral system, because a lot of people have kind of lost, a lot of people, particularly on the left, Bernie's 2 times, a lot of it was unkosher and rigged, in my view. They've lost hope electorally. I kind of say you could do both. You don't need to totally shut out electoral if there's a good candidate or what have you. But this is kind of outside of the two-party duopoly and red versus blue. It's just workers coming together with a 30, 40-year neoliberal bubble starting to pop.
You're absolutely right, because it doesn't matter what town I'm in. If you're on a strike line with UAW here, you'll have people drive by with Trump stickers, and they'll be honking and waving. And you have people who are clearly not Trump supporters that honk and wave. This is, Americans have had enough of they've figured out half the equation here. They have figured out that trickle down does not work. And finally, I'm 40. I don't know how old you are, but our entire lives have been stagnant fucking wages and trickle down economics. That's what we've had. That's the only choices we've had. And finally, people have figured out that that wages are not increasing because there is nothing that's trickling down from the corporate side of things. Now, too many of them still will go vote for knuckleheads who enable tax policy that's trickle down that does not work. But, people are starting to wake up. We got half the equation figured out. We need to figure out the other half.
I think you just touched on it, though, because I covered 2016 on the road, 2020, and I basically see if people have a choice between Republicans or kind of like Republican lights, if you don't actually have a populist alternative, people tend to go for the opposite side because they kind of get sucked into more cultural things and this and that. Right. But if they actually have an opposition party that's pro-act, labor, we haven't had a minimum wage raise in over a decade, 2009. If you actually had an alternative, you might see, the media and others will scream about socialism, but actually socialism policy by policy, or whatever you want to call it, pretty popular. Right. So I think what you're touching on is, the Democrats, if they actually pushed all these popular things, they wouldn't have to worry about winning elections.
I completely agree, and I've got to take off, but all I can say right now is we're really missing people like Paul Wellstone. Yeah. We'd have a way different country if somebody like him was still around.
Absolutely. So, thank you, sir. Give your name again.
My name's Charlie Wishman, and I'm have the honor and privilege of serving as president of the state Iowa Federation of Labor, AFL-CIO.
Thanks for talking to us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. So that is, Iowa Federation of Labor. Picket line still going. Obviously you speak with some of these kind of union heads and they'll only go so far. They're not going to bash the Democratic Party per se, like when I was on the picket line in Ottumwa the other day, they were not holding back on the Democratic Party. Whatever, that's fine. People could, say what they want. But he touched on something that I think's really, really important. And that is, I think the media pushes this narrative that some states are like super red, right? Well, look at West Virginia, for example. They're pushing this line that Manchin has to be this way because West Virginia voted for Trump by, what was it, 40 points or something like that. Well, look back just a decade ago. West Virginia was blue and Democrat for over a century. Why? Because it had a strong tradition of labor, populism, and working class. That shifted and went away because of people like Joe Manchin, who are corrupt. So West Virginia started moving further and further to the right because there was no actual alternative. The Democrats weren't pushing or proposing anything other than lip service. They were taking money from the same corporations that are exploiting and stealing from these workers. That's in West Virginia. Multiply that around the country. Iowa, for example, he mentioned Obama won Iowa twice, right? Well, Obama was full of shit. He actually was, dime a dozen Wall Street politician, but he ran on populism, remember? He ran on single payer and, he spoke out against money in politics. That stuff kind of excites people in red states. So Iowa was blue 2 times. But again, as supposedly the left parties continue to shift further and further to the right, I guess they think they have to win elections, but overall, minus 2020, which, by the way, other than Biden, Democrats did pretty poorly down ballot. They were supposed to. A lot of the House seats they lost, they expected to win. They barely won the Senate. So a lot of these states that are considered red, if there was an alternative to, some of the states, whatever, they're red. Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia. Well, Georgia actually went blue. But a lot of these states that are just red, and it'll be tough to shift them blue. But a lot of these states that technically are considered red, on the policies, people support progressive policies. But if you only have Republican, Colin and I have been driving around, right? You listen to talk radio in Iowa and other places, it is just propaganda, indoctrination, and just feeding people misinformation from a right-wing point of view. But they don't have an alternative, so that's all they're hearing. So, it's great. These picket lines, it kind of varies. They're out here all day, so sometimes it's rah-rah and exciting. Sometimes it's just people chilling, standing around. But we wanted to show you it because, this is what's happening on the ground. Glad I got to speak with a couple people. You got dogs. There's the burn barrel to keep people warm. We're kind of figuring out what we're going to do. This is always on the fly here at Status Coup. We're figuring out how long are we going to stay out here in Iowa. We're figuring out if we're able to go somewhere next. We want to go to Buffalo after this trip. But to tell you the truth, it really depends on funding. We are on the ground. Status Coup launched in 2018. We have never taken money from a bank, fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, military industrial complex, greedy, evil, wealthy people funding the Democrats or the Republicans. We had a tiny investment in the beginning from a viewer, actually. And that 50 grand that we got went to equipment. So it was like out the door for one-time equipment purchases. But since then, it's been you. We are fully funded by you. Our model to afford this is membership, paid membership. You can become a paid member for as low as $5 a month. As a Status Coup member, it's not only that you're supporting this kind of reporting on the ground, this justice journalism, as I like to call it, you're also getting perks. So you get to join our monthly members call through Zoom. We do behind-the-scenes videos. Colin and I have been shooting photos and videos out here as we're driving around, and we're posting them on the members section of our website, StatusCoup.com. If you're a member, StatusCoup.com. You click on, I think, over join. And if you click over join, it's also member content. So as a member, just click on member content. You'll see all the behind-the-scenes photos, members videos, all that. If you're a patron, you get that too. Members call, behind the scenes content. We're also doing a special promo now. So if you sign up as a member all the way through Thanksgiving, we're stopping it after Thanksgiving. But now through Thanksgiving, if you sign up as a member, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, you'll get a free piece of Status Coup merchandise. So if you go to statuscoup.com/fall, it gives you the directions. $5 a month, you get a certain piece of merchandise. $10 a month, you get something different. $20 a month, you get something different. We need you. We need you. Frankly, during COVID and economic struggles, we've lost a decent amount of members through, obviously they need to tighten their budget, can't afford it, which we understand. We've lost members that just canceled because we weren't screaming loud enough for them, I guess, which is what it is. We're never going to fake or just feed people what they want to hear if we don't actually believe it. So I think that's a troubling trend, honestly, online, where people just unsubscribe or cancel their support if you're not in 1,000% agreement at all times. I don't think people should think that way, but that's another story. But we're trying to build up our membership, so every new member counts, even at the $5 level. Sign up, statuscoup.com/fall. If you're already a member, I saw in our last live stream, we got a couple donations. We need to get those donations up. These trips, if we're going to be on the road for 2 weeks, which is the plan right now, if we can't make more money, we won't be. These trips could cost anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000. You're talking multiple flights, hotel every night for 2 weeks. You're talking rent a car, which is expensive every day, plus insurance. You're talking food during the day, equipment. We had to go to Best Buy. I think we need to go get rain gear too, because it's going to rain tomorrow and we don't have enough rain gear for our equipment. So all this adds up. It's not cheap. There's two reasons the corporate media and most independent media don't do what we're doing. Well, let's start with the corporate media. The corporate media doesn't do what we're doing because the corporate media is owned by corporations that don't want to show you this shit. That's number one. And it's not in their business interest to show you what's actually going on. Number two, they're lazy. And number three, it costs a lot of money to actually go out on the road and cover what's really going on, which I call the workers' revolt all over America. It's expensive. CNN, MSNBC, they have way more resources than us, but they don't exactly go out on the ground for weeks at a time like this. So we really need your support. Become a member, statuscoup.com/fall. And if you're already a member and could chip in, statuscoup.com/donate. statuscoup.com/donate. We appreciate small and large donations. And I can tell you, I've said this before, there's been many trips where things were not looking good. We were out on the road for 4 or 5 days. We were losing money, spending more money than we were making in terms of signing up new members, donations. And I said to Jen whatever, I don't really think we could go to the next state or go cover the next story. We can't bleed money because no company could bleed money and survive and continue to operate. And when we were about to pack it in and book a flight home because it was just getting too expensive, all of a sudden a big donation came through that allowed us to be on the road for another couple days, a week. So Jen always says, because in the first few days I'm always doom and gloom and God damn it, this isn't going well and shit. I'm frustrated because YouTube is hiding us. I mean, we have 121,000 subscribers. We're barely getting over 200 viewers on a live stream, which just isn't normal. It's because most people do not see when we're live. Even our subscribers, 121,000 subscribers, they don't get notified when we're live. But a lot of those times that I was doom and gloom, all of a sudden a viewer comes through with a big donation, or we get a lot of medium-sized donations. So definitely appreciate your support. statuscoup.com/donate if you want to donate, or statuscoup.com/fall to become a member. Membership is how we grow. It's how we survive. It's how we continue to stay actually independent. A lot of outlets out there claiming to be independent. Look who's giving them money before you accept that they're independent. There's also a lot of YouTube channels and stuff God bless them. They don't do this. We support a lot of the YouTube hosts who provide great analysis and commentary, but they're not out. I mean, Kyle Kalinske and Crystal have openly said support Status Coup. They have a lot more expenses than we do. So I'm not saying don't support them, but I am saying if you can, only if you can. If you can't, we understand. But if you can, become a member, statuscoup.com/fall, and it'll give you the directions how to get the free merchandise. We're going to wrap up here. I think we're done for the day as far as live streams. Trying to figure out what we're going to do for tomorrow because it has a 100% chance of rain. But rain or shine, journalism must go on. So even though it's raining, we're going to try and cover more of the picket lines or whatever's going on. I did speak with somebody down in Ottumwa who said, yeah, you might have less people, but we'll still have stuff going on. And I think it would be even really valuable to show you it's still going on, rain or shine. So I don't know exactly yet where we'll be tomorrow, but we will still be here covering stuff. Lastly, statuscoup.com/fall, statuscoup.com/donate. But do not rely on YouTube to notify you when we're live. Do not rely on YouTube to notify you when we're live. 9 out of 10 times, you won't get a notification. So sign up for our text message list, statuscoup.com/text. statuscoup.com/text. That way, if you sign up, you will get a text message when we're live. A lot of people only find our live stream because they get the text. So that's it. Let me read a couple comments, questions before I go. Hold on. GoFundMe gets more of your donations to Status Coup. We do have a GoFundMe as well, so that's a good point. You could go Status Coup GoFundMe. Hang in there, Jordan. I'm going to cancel my streaming service and give that money to you on a monthly basis. Edwards, from your lips to God's ears. Appreciate that. We need you all on the ground. Absolutely. But 200 quality viewers, that is a very, very good point. You are all quality. We love you. March, someone donate 20G for the heck of it. You'll get the money. Don't worry about the money. It'll come to you. Thank you. 20 grand? Let me tell you something. If somebody donates 20 grand today, I might have to do a live stream doing naked jumping jacks because that would be amazing. Melanie, mainstream media is owned by rich corporate elites. The rich use mainstream media as their source of news to lie and entertainment to laugh, all of us while fucking us over. Couldn't say it better. As Jen said in the live stream, it costs a lot to report in field like this, but it's important. We're viewer funded and you can help us at any amount. statuscoup.com/donate. Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Thanks for covering this. Hard to find a feed. Isn't that a shame? Hard to find a feed. I got to tell you something. How do I say this nicely? I've been doing this for 6 years around the country. I started at the Young Turks, and then when we started Status Coup in 2018. Colin could tell you too. There's very, very few things we go to. Very, very few things on workers' strikes, workers fighting back, environmental genocide, water contamination, homelessness, mass evictions, black men being murdered. We're talking before George Floyd. Very few things that we've gone on the ground and covered that there was even any media there. Any media, corporate or independent. I have been to so many things, I'm not making this up, so many things where literally it was us and like a French documentary crew in Flint. A French documentary crew in Flint covering it more than the local media in Michigan and Flint. Here, I do know that, what is it called? More Perfect Union, More Perfect, I think it's run by like people from Bernie's campaign, but they've covered this and a lot of other workers' strikes, so they're doing good. Other than that, I don't really know. Bernie sent his web guy here to the front lines to get footage, which was great. I don't know. I haven't seen Democracy Now! Certainly not the Young Turks. That's for shit sure. A lot of these YouTube hosts that spend 24/7 bashing Bernie and the squad and, basically negative 24/7. They do it from the comfy confines of their home, but I don't really see them on the ground or even at home covering these worker strikes the way that this is the number one story in America right now. Sure, we're still in a pandemic. I don't want to say we're not. This is the number one story. Workers and labor have been in hibernation for the last 30 years in this country, and they are now slowly but surely coming out of hibernation. I don't know how you could call yourself progressive online or anywhere, and this isn't the top story you're covering and covering and covering and covering. And even if you're a commentator, get out there. Sure, it's not easy, but the more cameras, channels with 1 million subscribers, 900,000 subscribers, 800,000. This should be what they're covering. Invite workers on your show. Support them. But if you're not going to do it, we're happy to pick up the slack. So again, one more time, statuscoup.com/fall. Become a member. statuscoup.com/donate. Please support us. I'm not beyond begging. And we will see you likely back here tomorrow. Also, at Status Coup on Twitter. That's where we've been cutting up a lot of these clips, so you could share them, retweet our tweets, all that. A lot of these clips have been going around. I think one person we interviewed in Ottumwa, I think it's got like 25,000 views on Twitter, which is great. So at Status Coup, all that stuff. We will see you back probably live tomorrow. Peace out.